The information provided by Trading Forex Price Action to you does not constitute personal financial advice. The information provided is of a general nature only and does not take into account your individual objectives, financial situation, or needs. It should not be used, relied upon, or treated as a substitute for specific professional advice.
Midweek Analysis.
Hey guys, this is a midweek analysis for March 2nd of 2022. Alright, we'll start out with the pound dollar. This is a weekly chart. We'll start off with an overview of the current setup I'm looking at. So since there was a stronger long trade right here than this short trade right here, the current bias is long. Or in other words, price was likely to reach this pivot high before reaching this pivot low. And so I was waiting for a pullback for a long entry. However, because there was confirmation short on the 1 hour chart in this area right here, I'm currently waiting for stronger long confirmation on the lower time frames for this long entry, again with the stop loss at this pivot low and its main target being right here. Okay, let's talk midweek price. Alright, so on this 4 hour chart, that 1 hour fake double top, that form was right here, which shows strong short strength. And so one setup I'm looking at for long confirmation, again, is from this trend line, this pivot to this pivot right here. So we got a breakout and immediate break back in, which signals normal long strength. However, if price could fall back to that pivot low where that long strength was created, that'll show that although there was long strength, short strength was able to override that, thus creating strong short strength. And then moreover, if I could get a V-shaped recovery on the lower time frames, for example the 1 minute and 5 minute chart, that'll show that long strength was able to override this strong short strength, creating extreme long strength. Okay, so that's one setup I'm looking for in terms of this long entry. Now moreover, there are two more hypothetical situations, so let me just show you those. Okay, so another ideal situation I'll be looking for in terms of confirmation of this long strength is a 1 hour small fake double bottom to form that still reaches its target height before reaching its second bottom stop loss level, which indicates strong long strength, which can override that 1 hour short strength that was formed up here. Now ideally, I want this 1 hour fake double bottom to be very small, where my stop loss will be at that weekly level I was talking about earlier. Okay, and finally, there is a situation that can happen on this 4 hour chart, where if there's a 4 hour fake double bottom that forms. Now in this case, the target height level has to be reached roughly in these levels before the second bottom stop loss level, in which case I would likely not enter this long entry, where the risk reward is too big, all the way down to that weekly stop loss level. So although I do not want this situation to form, this is a way to override that short strength that was formed in this area on the 1 hour chart. Okay, so those are the confirmations long I'll be looking for in the coming days. Alright, and moreover, let me just show you what's happening on midweek price in these areas on the lower time frames. So let's go over to the 15-minute chart. Okay, so in the end of last week, if you recall, there was a little bit of long strength forming with this fake 15-minute HNS that formed right here, and that stop loss level was hit, creating normal long strength. However, at this point right here, there was a breakout and no immediate break back in. Now this actually decreases this normal long strength created from this HNS. And so if you recall, I was mentioning there was only slight long strength at this point, and then continuously throughout this week, there were no immediate breaks back in, further signaling weakening long strength, with another one right here from this pivot to this pivot right here, and finally from this pivot to this pivot right here at current price. So as of this current moment, I would say price on the lower time frames is neutral. Okay, alright, so let's go on to the Euro Yen pair. Okay, this is a weekly chart. We'll start off with an overview of the current setup I'm looking at. So this weekly bias is short, or in other words, price is likely to reach this pivot low before reaching this pivot high. And so as price pulled back, I was taking multiple short entries on these areas with a stop loss at this pivot high right here. And at the current moment, this weekly bias is still short. So if we get further pullbacks long, I'll be willing to take another short entry. All right, let's talk midweek price. Okay, so on this 1 hour chart, if you recall, the last short entry I took was right here at 131.50, roughly in these areas, with a stop loss at the 133.67 levels. And if you recall, I was mentioning I was not going to take out any of this short position, for the weekly bias is still short. Now, moreover, if you recall my weekly forecast, I was mentioning there was a daily long trade that formed in this area. However, since the weekly bias is still short, that it can fail at any time. Now, price fell down to a stop loss level at these areas right here, which actually further confirmed this weekly short bias. So let me just explain that to you. Let's go over to the daily chart. Okay, so on this daily chart, if you recall, the daily bias was long, or in other words, price was likely to reach this pivot high before reaching this pivot low. However, that weekly bias was still short, so this long trade can fail at any time. Then immediately on the following day is a gap down and stopped out that long stop loss level at this point right here. Now this further confirms the weekly bias is in fact short, or if the weekly bias was long, this would have been a good long entry along with the weekly bias long. Okay, so at this moment there are constant confirmations that weekly short biased. However, recall I do want more pullbacks to take more short entries along with this weekly bias. So let me show you what I'm looking at. Let's go back to the weekly chart. Okay, so again, that weekly bias was short and price should not reach this pivot high before reaching this pivot low. So we already had two nice pullback entries for this short bias, and I would prefer another pullback for another short entry. Now the way I view if we'll get another pullback for a short entry is, of course, you could look at monthly elements that provide long strength in these areas. However, another way I look at this is that the last weekly long trade that formed was right here, with a stop loss at this pivot low right here. And so if price falls down to stop out this stop loss level from this last weekly long entry point, at that point price will likely not give a further pullback for this weekly short bias. Okay, so for the time being, I do not want price to fall down to these levels. Okay, so finally, let me just gauge midweek price view. So let's go over to the 5-minute chart. Okay, on this 5-minute chart, there was a legitimate double bottom that formed, which did hit its target height level in these areas right here, which signals normal long strength. However, today on this trend line from this pivot to this pivot right here, there was no breakout and immediate break back in, which actually decreases this normal long strength. And so for the time being, the strength differential between the longs and shorts is neutral. Okay, all right, so that's it for the midweek analysis. I hope you guys have a great rest of the week, and thanks for watching. Okay, bye.